easier on you as the consumer, as the person that's flying on the plane. So we'll talk about flying habits very soon as well. Before all of that, though, ages ago, when you went to the library, and this is I'm talking ages ago, it was probably a pretty simple affair in some ways. You'd go in, you'd maybe read a book, or you'd borrow one, and you'd take it home, read it, and then return it. And that was maybe I'm being a bit unfair, but that was kind of the core of the library experience. But of course, things have really changed now when it comes to libraries. They fill in a huge number of roles and have just announced that they're doing even a little bit more. Geoff Strempel is Director of the State Library of South Australia. Geoff, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Oh, thanks, Nikolai. Good to be with you.
The role of libraries has changed so much and is continuing to change, really.
Yes and no. I think the really important thing to think about is libraries have always been about information. And once upon a time, information was 99% of the time in a book. But as access to information has changed, so librarians have continued to find ways to make that content available via other means.
And that plays out in a couple of different ways, and that I suppose, I guess, in a way ties in with the idea of the Firstival. Can you tell us about the Firstival?
Yeah, Firstival's an interesting one. Last year was the first year we ran it, and when we put it in a few reports, everyone thought it was a typo because of how it was spelt. It's not a festival, it's a Firstival. So we wanted to give people opportunities to experiment and find an opportunity to do something they probably always thought they'd like to, but they weren't quite sure how to, or the opportunity hadn't presented itself. So we used all of our public libraries to be able to reach out to the community and say, we have people who have some skills here. Some of them are staff, but some of them are other people in the community who are very keen to share with you an opportunity to do something you've never done before. And some of that may be related to literacy and literature, etc. But some of it's really very much about finding out some information that once upon a time might have been in a book, but come along and engage and do it. So whether it's making homemade pasta for the first time with somebody who's really very good at that, or some other form of experience for the first time and thinking, yeah, I'd like to do more of that. So it's really about exposing people to new and interesting things they have thought about doing but haven't had the opportunity yet.
And what kind of response did you have last year?
Oh, just the reason we're doing it again, because many of the sessions were booked out totally, and there was a real thirst for it. And then we did a survey afterward, and a number of people had not heard about it and said, oh, if only I'd known, I would have gone. So, and lots of people who did go came back and said, great, I hope you do it again. So given last year's success, everyone has told us, yep, please run it again.
Right, and so it's quite a large program too, right? There are a lot of different things people will be able to do.
Indeed, yes.
250 experiences. That's a lot.
Yep. Yeah. It's something that'll run for a month. So, libraries are used to probably doing, maybe an activity of this sort. Some of the bigger libraries might do something like this every fortnight. So it's really come down to them focusing for this month on adding maybe a couple of extra programs in and do something on a weekly basis for their community. But yeah, 250, it's quite broad in what's being available. So hopefully people will be able to find something on the program that is of interest to them.
And you mentioned that in some cases you have to kind of find the subject matter experts in whatever the area may be, but some of them are staff as well. That must be kind of quite a fun process in your own right, finding out that somebody that you had just known as Geoff who works at the library actually knows how to unicycle as well, or something like that.
Yeah, certainly. That's been done predominantly at the local level, where people know their communities and are therefore looking for events that do suit their community. So, and the power of our network with 130 public libraries, whichever library wanted to run programs, they've been able to reach into their local community and be able to gather those people together, either, as I say, staff or others to come and do events for them. And it's interesting. We all know that Adelaide's a bit of a village, and so therefore the ability to say, oh, I know someone who's running a microbrewery. Maybe I'll give him a call. He's my cousin's friend or whatever. And so we can very quickly build together a program which does appeal. Part of it is what went well last year. Shall we do some more of them? What else do we know is out there that we could add to this program to continue to have, for the first time ever, we're offering something different.
Yeah, and part of this will include, I go to the school holidays as well, so there'll be things for younger people.
Indeed, definitely. That's part of the reason why it is where it is in the calendar. So it's got both some weekends for adults and school holiday times for kids.
And you mentioned too that one of the other examples was something like maybe cooking pasta for the first time, because some libraries, and of course not all of them, but I think some of them have kitchens and things like that nowadays as well.
Yeah, it's becoming more prevalent as people are looking at how do we work with our communities and the things that they want. The probably just about the latest public library to open is up in Blackwood. Blackwood had a long-term public library up there in less than ideal circumstances, and the council has managed to bring together its community centre and its library in a two-storey building. And upstairs is a really good functioning kitchen that they use when they're catering for events, but can also be used as a community access place as well.
And so if people want to know more about this, what should they do?
Well, there is a website, and it's firstival.com.au, and they can go and have a look at that, and that can help them to find their way around. We're just distributing all of the collateral to libraries now, so if you're regular to visit your local public library, I'm sure you'll be able to pick up some collateral that'll tell you what is going on in your neighbourhood and more broadly.
Geoff, thank you for your time this afternoon.
No problem. Lovely to chat to you, Nicola.
That's Geoff Strempel, who's the Director of the State Library of South Australia. It's 2, 891 ABC Radio Adelaide, South Australia and Broken Hill. Be keen to hear from you this afternoon what you use your local library for. We've just heard that there are so many different offerings now. I know that some of them have video game systems and things like that. Some of them have got little meeting rooms that you can book out and use as a little kind of meeting hub if you may be running a small business or something like that. If you've used some of those, let me know what you find useful. Or are you still just a core library user, if I can put it that way, where it's all about the literature? 0467 922 891 is the text number. Pepper Mickan is president of the Public Libraries Association. Pepper, thank you for your time this afternoon.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
So as I say, I mean, it is to me, it's really intriguing watching libraries evolve and all the different offerings that they, I guess, try and find a way to keep a community engaged.
Definitely, and I think that's one thing that we do well in our public libraries is bringing the community together and learning from each other as well. So it's a place where people can come together and get some information like Geoff was saying, but also to find new skills or make new connection with other people. So it's a really good space to come.
It can even play that kind of social role, really, I imagine, for some people who might not have a whole lot of access to other social interactions to be able to head along and either take part in some of the courses like we've just been discussing or some of the other events that a library runs.
Definitely. That's probably being a big part that we're playing within libraries there. And you'll find that some people will come into their local branches on a daily basis just to interact with staff. And for some people, that's the only sort of other interaction they have. For others, it's coming to the class to catch up with friends, or particularly if they've moved to a new area or something like that, then that's a great place to sort of start off and build those new connections.
I imagine too that must mean that librarians or staff at some of these community centres must have had to do a bit more, or maybe a bit more skill is kind of required of them rather than maybe what would have been thought of as the, kind of what you need to be a librarian in the past.
Look, I think it's always been there, but I think what we're finding is, the people that are coming in are so diverse, which is brilliant because it means that we can learn from the community as well. But we're certainly being spaces for all. So from cradle to grave and any demographic, there's certainly a wide skill set to have, but also we learn just as much from the customer too, which is brilliant.
And of course it's one of those intriguing areas in a way where books are the core, or literature maybe is at the core, but there are so many other things too, of course, toy libraries and things like that. And I'm not sure if this has ever been tried in South Australia, but I think there's in some places there's even been the idea of a people library where you can kind of borrow a person to hear their story.
Yes, it's definitely a great idea, and I'm not sure off the top of my head if we've had that yet, but I dare say it will be on the way if not already. But we're also seeing the introduction of the Library of Things that's coming through.
Yeah, and some people will have heard of that, but maybe not others. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. So, libraries are traditionally known for books, and that's a fantastic part of our collection. But now I guess we're value adding. And so the Library of Things allows the community to come in and try new equipment, or get one-time tasks done, or, if you think you've got a 4-year-old birthday coming up, you don't necessarily want to go out and buy a 4-year-old or a tin cake with the number 4 on it, because you may only use it once. So that may be something that you can pop into the library and pick up and save yourself some dollars there. So it's about, people can save the money, they can save space in their houses, but also, and just as importantly, is reducing waste and having that sustainability factor too.
No, it's such a good idea. Like you say, the cake tin is probably the perfect example. But even I think, because I don't know if it's power tools, but I think there are things like that as well, where you might need something once every 3 months or something, and if you can just borrow it, then you don't need to go to the expense of purchasing it and then having it sit on a shelf.
Look, exactly. And look, if you're like me, then the cake tin is probably something that I'll use once, because I'm not known for my cooking skills. But definitely with the power tools and just, I guess, even popcorn makers and those that might be a bit of a novelty for at home, that especially in this day and age with the cost of living, it's just not necessarily as accessible. So yeah, the Library of Things is really starting to ramp up and helping out people there as well.
We're getting a couple of interesting texts through as well. If you'd like to join this conversation, 0467 922 891. Ian's been in touch saying, I'm a Justice of the Peace. I volunteer at 2 libraries and it is a very busy service. And somewhat fortuitously, Michelle has also been in touch saying, I literally went to the library this morning at Burnside to get some documents witnessed by a JP. I came home and said to my husband, I love our library. It has such a welcoming feeling. There's so much happening there and so much to do. And I mean, that's just another example, I suppose, too, of that. Sometimes it can be tricky to find something like the services of a Justice for the Peace, but doing it at a library is a good way to do it, Pepper.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the great thing that libraries offer too is that it's that neutral space as well. So you're not necessarily having to go to a JP's home or them coming to yours. You can meet at the library, and it's got that sense of trust there as well.
Pepper, thank you for your time this afternoon too.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.
That's Pepper Mickan, the president of the Public Libraries Association. And Carol from Woodville West too says, I recently attended a Tasting Australia event hosted by Sonia at our library at Westlakes, and I was amazed to find a kitchen in the middle of the library, but it worked really, really well. Well, there you go. It's interesting how they evolve over time, isn't it? It's changed a lot, I imagine, and will continue to do so. Keep your thoughts coming. 0467 922 891. You can always give us a call on 1300 222 891. On that note, somewhat apropos of the discussion that we've just been having, what do you use? Do you have a go-to bookmark? Have you got a bookmark that is maybe special to you, that you got as a birthday present, or a mother's or a father's day present, or a grandparent's present, or something like that? Maybe it's the receipt from the shops